Hi, my name is Alan.
And I'm Nick. And welcome to the Table Podcast.
Yeah, this is a new podcast that we are actually starting because several friends of ours had suggested that we do this, right? That there was something unique that could be shared with people and that we should do it.
So that's kind of what we're hoping to do with you. The Table Podcast is essentially about having a conversation. And tell us, what kind of conversation are we going for?
Yeah.
Here? So different.
What's different? Well, we wanted to be a place where people feel safe to talk about anything, right? Yeah. I mean, sadly, in our society right now, civil conversation, honest conversation is a little dangerous, or at least people feel that way. And so there's things that aren't being talked about that are important questions. And we want this to be a place where those conversations can happen and happen in a way that people don't feel threatened and know that a serious and honest question will be engaged with respect and with grace. So that's kind of our bottom line, I think, right?
Yeah,
Am I missing anything?
I can't think of a thing there. No, that's as simple as we want to make it, really.
Yeah. And we want you to be a part of it. It would be really cool, I think, if each week each episode, somebody is able to join us at the table with their question, and that becomes the focus of the dialogue that day.
Yeah, we don't want to make it a podcast where we just have these really incredibly, sought after speakers, that you want to listen to. We actually want to listen to you and invite you to the table to have these kinds of conversations where we can talk about any of the open questions that you really want to talk about with us and other people.
Yeah, so we won't be the talking heads every week. I think that's probably if there's anything unique, it's that we want to have other people involved and being a part of the conversation and make it a community conversation if that's possible.
Yeah, but I mean, there are drawbacks you think in your mind immediately, why would we choose to do it this way? I mean, what would you say to the person that's like, that sounds like a little too organic?
Maybe it is, but we're going to take the risk because it has been a part of healthy conversation around over many, many, many millennia. It seems like when people get together around the table, that they're able to lay aside some of their agendas and their anger and to have a civil conversation, because it's hard to eat and enjoy your meal and be mad, right?
Unless it's really bad.
Yeah. So it tends, food, well, that's true, unless you start throwing the food. But food tends to calm us down and get us into a frame of mind where we're able to talk about stuff that maybe we wouldn't. And it goes back a long ways. I mean, in my own experience, it kind of started out of a visit that I made to the L'Abri community in Switzerland back in 1975. And I had the privilege of hanging out. I know it's a long time ago. You weren't born. You weren't even, your parents weren't even born, were they?
No, they were born.
Oh, okay. So I was able to spend a week with Francis Anita Schaefer and sit in that conversation. It was amazing. Long conversations around the table. That's the main thing I remember. So we're sitting in these Swiss chalets every evening, all kinds of people sitting around the table, a Marxist, an atheist, a Pentecostal, just all kinds of folk.
It sounds like a great film.
Oh my gosh, it was awesome. And so I thought to myself, dude, someday I'm going to do this. And that was kind of my desire. And in fact, it was part of the way that Barbara and I fleshed out our marriage. We just always had an open home, sometimes had people living with us, but having meals with a bunch of people was kind of what we did. And so later on, we wanted to make it something more formal. And that's when we started the lab.
Right.
And the lab was a place for young leaders to come sit down and ask the questions that they may not have felt the freedom to ask in other contexts.
Yeah.
And to know that we would have a honest conversation and a safe conversation. But in that honesty and safety, there was going to be some pushing and give and take because that's the way you come to real answers, I think.
No, and that's what I experienced when I went through the lab, being one of the first people to go through the lab with my wife, Jamie. That's, whatever you received at Labrie that you put in the lab, we got it. We picked it up because it was at this table.
Lots of food.
Well, yeah, the food was great.
And homemade bread.
Being newlyweds and not having a great budget for eating out, that was alluring. But spending time with people that we knew were actually going to really get to the heart of things with us and engage us the way you guys were it was something to look forward to every week besides Barb's awesome cooking. And I felt like it was a really formative experience for me. So when we thought about what people had said, you guys should start a podcast. When we thought, what would we do? We were like, we need to do this table. We need to find a way to capture those kinds of conversations again.
Yeah.
And that's why we're doing it.
And invite other people in. Right?
Exactly. To sit at the table with us.
Yeah. So that's kind of the heart of it. And it's, it has been a long tradition in the Christian way of life to put hospitality in a high position. And in fact, that was probably the greatest virtue in the early church was hospitality, having your doors open to the stranger, having your doors open to those in need, and making your table available to them. Some of that at times I think has been lost, but certainly it's something we'd like to encourage in any way we can and foster it by being a living example, right?
Yeah.
People, you don't get a meal, but you do get a free cup of tea.
That's right. There will be tea. So one of the incentives is to come onto the table with your questions, but also with an empty cup, because we will
fill it.
We may even give you a cup. Who knows? That's a thought in the future.
That is future bling that we've considered, right?
Yeah, but there's another reason why we do it this way too. You mentioned the early church's example of hospitality being one of their virtues, but a really simple, easy way to think about why we are going to do the table the way that we are is because we see Jesus' example.
Good point.
In the Gospels, the way that he engages people, the way that he asks questions. You think that somebody who walks around, proclaiming themselves to be the Son of God, who has all knowledge, you think they would walk around giving people answers. But what you actually find in the Gospels is something much different.
So give us an example.
Yeah, I can think of many. I think John chapter 4. Okay, John chapter 4 then. I'll give you John chapter 4,
okay.
Right? Jesus is thirsty, sits at a well in Samaria, and there's a woman that comes to this well, and she is clearly not into having a dialogue with Jesus because he's Jewish and she's Samaritan. And Jesus breaks that kind of barrier down with a question and asks if he could have some water. Yeah. And begins to start talking to her, asking questions about her life that help her open up. And all these boundaries, all these barriers that seem to have existed between them, between gender and race and religious beliefs, started to fall down as they had this kind of dialogue that's centered around questions. And so that started with some water, and now we'll start with a cup of tea.
Yes, we have evolved
the table. So that we see is one of the reasons why we want to do it this way. We want to recapture Jesus' commitment to dialogue with people.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so we're gonna try this and see if we can engage people with real questions. If you are listening and there's something that you've always wanted to talk about, send us an email and we will get back with you if your question seems like one that we could make a 15-minute dialogue about, right? And then how would they do that?
Yeah, well, there's a couple different ways. If you are watching this on YouTube, you can feel free to drop a comment over there in the comments section. And if you're listening, maybe
only
on Spotify,
nice
what's that?
Only nice ones.
Only nice. Well, you can. It wouldn't be the table, I suppose, if you couldn't drop a real table. A Thanksgiving table is a whole other thing. But you could drop us a comment with something you want to talk about, or even to come on the show to talk about. And if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, feel free to email us at connect@northcountyproject.org so that we can get your questions, respond to you, and get something going. And yeah, feel free to like this video, subscribe, and share it with other people so that you can create the kind of conversations we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully this becomes not just something that happens around this table, but something that begins to spread in our society. What a concept, right? That we could sit around tables together and talk about important things in a way that engenders friendship rather than hostility. Yeah. Okay. So thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to talking with you in the future.
Yeah. Till then, we'll see you at the table.
Yes. Shalom.